Today, in the B block, the last league to worry the National Football League, the USFL. The United States Football League, the spring league of the mid-1980s that featured innovations, wild uniforms and nicknames, enhanced players' salaries, and a team owner who was this brash New York real estate developer who was acquiring a public profile, a guy by the name of Trump. On the day the NFL begins its 99th season, what better time to remember the 3 years in raucous history of the USFL, immortalized in Jeff Pearlman's latest book, and it's full of good stories and compelling reporting. Football for a buck. And I'm joined now by Jeff Pearlman. Jeff, you were fascinated from a young age about this league. Why?
I mean, I remember being a kid and going into the Mahopac Public Library and seeing a Sports Illustrated with Herschel Walker on the cover in a general's uniform, and it says hitting pay dirt, and opening the magazine and seeing all the colors and the helmets and the Michigan Panthers and the Philadelphia Stars and the exploding everything. And it's just like a lot of kids, like things catch your fancy and seem really big when you're little. And the USFL, especially once they started picking off players left and right, it just really caught my attention. I've loved it. Even in its post-mortem, I've loved that league for years and years.
You can apply a lot of different adjectives to this league, and I remember it vividly. We were televising it, and I covered the trial. What are your favorite adjectives in talking about this league?
I mean, I think it's really explosive. I think it was revolutionary. I think it scared the crap out of the NFL. I mean, you have to remember, I mean, you know this, they signed 3 straight Heisman Trophy winners. They picked off Herschel Walker. They got Mike Rozier. They got Doug Flutie. They started signing anyone and everyone. When Donald Trump was the owner of the Generals, he offered a contract to Lawrence Taylor and had him sign to a futures deal. Chris Collinsworth signed with the Tampa Bay Bandits. I think they were terrifying. In the NFL offices, they referred to the USFL as the useless, as kind of mocking. But they stopped laughing really quickly because they were just incredibly afraid of this league and what it was doing.
And when they were pursuing Herschel Walker, NFL rules totally precluded going after anybody at that point. He was a junior. But this is pre-Jerry Jones. There were the Cowboys skulking about.
Yeah, well, Herschel Walker initially considered the Canadian Football League as an underclassman. That didn't happen. Then he approached the USFL. And as soon as the Cowboys found out that Herschel Walker might be going to the USFL, the Cowboys approached Herschel Walker. And they made him an offer. And to Herschel Walker's credit, he actually said, the USFL offered me this first. They were the ones who sort of wanted me first, and I'm going to go with them. And he became a revolutionary figure in football and sort of younger players going into the pro ranks.
Yeah, I mean, the football axis, and if you're too young to remember it, the football axis stopped, the world stopped spinning as Walker made that move. First title game, you've got Ronald Reagan, calling the winning team in the locker room while outside cops are macing fans. What was that day like?
Magic Johnson was in the locker room. So the Michigan Panthers with Bobby Hebert and Anthony Carter beat the Philadelphia Stars with Kelvin Bryant and Sam Mills. And it was Denver and a Mile High Stadium. And it was an amazing game. It was everything the USFL needed. Michigan wins on a late deep pass from Hebert to Carter. And the fans stormed the field. They stormed the field. And meanwhile, in the press box, like the USFL PR people are like, wasn't that a great game? Here's a sheet. And they're looking down. They're literally looking down at fans attacking the field. And the Denver police had been told, do not let them do anything to the field. They were under very strict guidelines. Do not let them do. So the police are coming out, running around and macing people as they're trying to tear down the goalpost. And the USFL people, Chet Simmons, the commissioner, is there. Former ESPN guy, Chet Simmons, is there.
My old boss.
What the hell is going on?
The shadow of Donald J. Trump falls across the history of the league. Remember the first time I met him, I interviewed him. He had just bought the Generals. He's asking me, I think it was 27 or 28 at the time, should I sign Brian Sipe? I said, well, this guy's asking for information. We know about the move to the fall and the antitrust, but here's a guy who came, that close to really having Don Shula as his head coach?
Yeah, he actually had a deal in place with Don Shula. Don Shula was not happy in Miami, didn't like Joe Robbie, and Donald Trump offered him the biggest coaching contract in the history of professional football. And Shula insisted that he also get a suite in Trump Tower. And Trump first balked at it. So they were still negotiating, and Trump actually went on TV and started mocking Shula for asking for so much and said, yeah, it's not going to work out. He's making too many demands. And Don Shula saw that. Don Shula actually was after a Dolphin game, and the first question he's asked is about Donald Trump sort of calling him out on TV. And that was the end of Don Shula going to the New Jersey Generals, and they ended up hiring Walt Michaels later the Jets.
In either a cultural or a tangible sense, what's the biggest part of the USFL's legacy here as we approach this NFL season?
I mean, I actually think there's a ton of stuff. First of all, the salaries. If you talk about NFL salaries now and look at what the USFL did, it was enormous because the money they were throwing at guys and then the NFL had to match was huge. Teams in Jacksonville, teams in Tennessee, a team in Carolina, because USFL was the first to have an exhibition game in Carolina. The challenge, the two-point conversion, 4 Hall of Famers, Reggie White, Jim Kelly, Steve Young, Gary Zimmerman, Jim Mora, just a million different little things that you can trace to the USFL. If
you love the ABA, you love the Rebel League, and you're too young to remember the USFL, it's captured in football for a buck. It is Jeff Pearlman's latest effort. As always, he captures it perfectly. Jeffrey, it's good to speak with you again.
Thanks, Bob. I really appreciate it.